Hello class, and welcome to the first teaching video of the semester, which is titled Elements of Music. Now, in History and Styles of Popular Music, the purpose of this is to equip you with some terminology and some concepts to inform your listening to the music that we're going to be listening to throughout the semester. Now, every time I run this course, I get some people, whether during the course or in course evaluations, who say, but this isn't supposed to be a music major or a music theory course, so why do we have to do all this music analysis? And the reason is that the course is called History and Styles of Popular Music. So it's not just a history course in terms of what this artist did or what this historical genre movement was and sort of the nitty-gritty facts of history, but it's also to inform your listening to identify different styles and their significant features. So what that means is we need to equip you with some basic knowledge of music concepts that you can then apply in your listening playlist and video discussions in the future, culminating ultimately in your song analysis project. So this is a very important video to watch for week 1, which I'm sure you'll be referring back to throughout the semester. So with that being said, let's go ahead and begin. Alright, so now you're seeing me in the top right of the screen, where you can still see me gesture a little bit and express, but most of the focus is going to be on the screen. In this presentation, I'm going to be equipping you with several different parameters of music and some terms that you can use to think about and describe the music that you're listening to in this course. Starting with rhythm. Now, the great thing about rhythm is it really is the fundamental building block of music. I always say to my music major students, you can have music with rhythm but no pitch. Just think of any drum music, for example. But you can't really have music with pitch and no rhythm. As soon as you've had two events in time, you now have the element of rhythm. So in popular music, which we're studying in this course, rhythm is mostly grouped into measures of 4 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm sure you've all heard count-offs from bands before where they say 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it's off to the races. So that's the count-off of one bar. 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is by far the most common meter, though not the only one. However, I wanted to use it to demonstrate some different aspects of rhythm. So you have the beats, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Very consistent, right? You could start a metronome and it's just going to keep clicking that 4 beat. When we fill in the off parts of the beat, so in between 1, 2, 3, 4, we get 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Those are all little ands. Now, you don't have to know exactly how to count that, but just know there's sort of that halfway point between each beat, right? 1 and 2 and. It sort of feels like bouncing up each time, and that is the offbeat. So now to talk a little bit about some of these different parts of the measure. Beat 1 is going to be the downbeat. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It gets a stronger pulse than the rest. The upbeat is beat 4 because it prepares for the downbeat. So up, down, 1, 2, 3, up, down, 2, 3, up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So if you have a stronger upbeat or like a pickup, which is sort of just an entrance that comes in on an upbeat, it's preparing you for the downbeat that's about to follow. Then we have the offbeats, which in this case is all the ands, and, but really can just be any part of the beat that is not on the number. So 1, 2, 3, 4, those are on the beat, and off the beat is anything else. And then finally, one term that is important to note is in rock music specifically, and in most pop music today, there's a certain emphasis on beats 2 and 4. Specifically, if we think of a drum pattern, this is where the snare drum would go. Da, bass, snare, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's what helps rock music and continues on into much pop music today sort of have a sense of more energy, that these beats 2 and 4 are somewhat emphasized rather than just the downbeat. Okay, so just remember downbeat, the first beat in the measure, upbeat, the last one, preparing for the downbeat, offbeat, anything that's not those numbers, and then when you have 4, 4, like we have here, the backbeats are 2 and 4, where the snare drum would go in the pattern. So most music has a pulse or a beat that divides time into equal segments. You heard that when I was counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, very consistent. The tempo is what we refer to measure the speed of that beat. So a faster tempo would be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, or a slower tempo, 1, 2, 3, 4. So when the beat happens more often, it's a faster tempo. When it happens more sparsely, that is a slower tempo. We measure tempo in terms of BPM, which stands for beats per minute. So a 60 beats per minute would mean 1 per second, 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, about 1 per second. Next we can talk about meter. So meter refers to the way that beats are grouped together to form a measure and how many beats are in that measure. So the most common ones for our purposes are by far quadruple meter, which is 4, 4, when you have 4 beats per measure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Most music you hear is going to be in 4, 4. We also have triple meter, which is only 3 beats. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. In that case, it sort of has a little more of a waltz or dance-like feel. You'll come across some songs that have triple meter. And then there's compound meter. So this one's a little complicated, but instead of having divisions of each beat into 2, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, you sort of get a swung feel where it's divided into 3 or triplets, sort of da 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 da. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Listen to these triplets. Merrily, 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 merrily. Da 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 da. That's compound meter because each beat is divided into 3 parts rather than 2. So if you get that feel of 1 dun 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 dun, groupings of 3 for each pulse, then it's looking more like compound meter, a 6/8 or a 12/8 rather than 4/4 or quadruple. All you really have to know is compound means you feel that triplet pulse, or a swung song, which would be like dum bum ba dum ba ga ga gung ga 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 gung ga ga gung, a skeleton of a triplet pulse underneath, but you just hear like dun 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 dun. So it has that little swing, then it's pointing to compound. Alright, so now let's talk about types of drum beat. We've already talked about the basic rock beat, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, bass, snare, dun, gat, dun, gat, dun, gat, dun, dun, gat. That's the basic rock beat, fills up a whole measure of 4/4. Double time would be taking that and sort of squeezing it so it happens more quickly. Instead of dun, gat, dun, dun, gat, you get dun, gat, 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 dun, gat. So snare every offbeat, every end, instead of on beats 2 and 4. Halftime actually sort of stretches out the time because the bass and snare pattern happens twice as long, so less often than the double time. So this would be like ding, gat, ding, ding, gat, bass, snare, bass, snare. So instead of bass, snare, it's more spread out. Bass, snare, boom, boom, gat. That would be a halftime feel. And then there's 4 on the floor, which comes more from disco, EDM, Daft Punk, and a number of genres and artists that we'll study. This one has bass every beat, and usually still snare on 2 and 4. So like ding, 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 gat, ding, gat. They're usually more for electronic dance music. Now for the parts of the beat, which you've already been hearing me use and is pretty intuitive for most of you, there is the bass drum, which is sort of the big drum at the bottom of a drum set, and that gets referred to as the kick. Dung is a low timbre. Snare drum, which sometimes gets referred to as clap, or has a literal clap in the case of a drum machine, so that has that higher sound, dung, gat, the snare or the clap. Then there's a hi-hat, which usually sort of has a tick, 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 like a sharper timbre, which just fills in the time. Toms, which are a little more tonal, like do, sort of gives fills like that. And then cymbals, which give a more dynamic, like either a shh, like a roll that mounts into a big burst of sound, or just a crash. And whether the actual percussion instruments are an acoustic drum set, a drum machine, a beatboxer, sampled instruments, or orchestral percussion, these tend to be the anatomy of a beat. Still has that sort of kick-snare duality mostly, and then these other elements that fill time or create dynamic swells. Alright, now we get to talk about some specific rhythms. So first of all, we have the tresillo, which comes from the Spanish word for triplet, and it's kind of a unique rhythm here. It's 3 plus 3 plus 2. So you hear 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Dum bum 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 bum, or quicker, dum bum 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 bum. So when you hear that rhythm, so that 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2, that's a rhythm that you can identify as the tresillo, and it's all over the place in popular music. Then there's the dembow, which sounds like this: 1 a 2 and 1 a 2 and 1 a 2 and 1 a 2 and. Most commonly, you might hear this in a drum beat between the bass and snare. So bass, snare, bass, snare, bass, snare, bass, snare, doom, gat, doom, gat, gat. That's the dembow rhythm. So especially in genres that are more influenced by Latin percussion and Latin American genres, you'll hear the dembow all over the place. And lastly, you have the Scotch snap. Now, that's a technical term, but when you hear the rhythm, you'll realize that you've heard it all over the place in hip-hop and rap in particular. So before, we had sort of this even 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and what a Scotch snap sounds like is like taking the and moving it forward. 1E, 2E, 3E, 4E, 1E, 2E, 3E, 4E. You've probably heard that rhythm all over the place, especially in hip-hop and rap. It really puts the emphasis and the rhythmic drive onto the beat, so even if you have something that's a little more syncopated, it sort of comes back to 1E, 2E, da-dun, da-dun, and really gives some emphasis on those staccato syllables. And so there's a great term there that needs to be explained, which is syncopation. Syncopation means accenting the offbeats. So instead of being on the beat, 1, 2, 3, 4, you have and, and that creates sort of a greater rhythmic activity, a greater rhythmic density, so that it feels like there's sort of more speed, but the tempo is not actually increasing. It's just filling in more of the gaps through syncopation. So when you hear a texture give more syncopation instead of just being boring all 1, 2, 3, 4, suddenly you have sort of a and, driving more forward to the next downbeat.